Hello, my wisdom family. Thank you for joining me again today in Wisdom Thought. I am LOLO Adam, and at 78 years old, I've learned that the most powerful force in this world isn't money, fame, or even knowledge. It's kindness. Allow me to tell you my own story. When I was a young man, maybe 25, I thought kindness was for the weak. I believed success meant being tough, competitive, getting ahead no matter what. But life and God's Word taught me something far different. Proverbs 11:17 tells us, "A man who is kind benefits himself, but a cruel man hurts himself." It took me decades to truly understand what Solomon meant by those words. In the next 30 minutes, I want to share with you 3 life-changing discoveries about kindness, lessons I wish I'd learned in my 20s instead of my 50s. These aren't just nice thoughts. They're practical wisdom that can transform your relationships, your career, and your very soul. If you're ready to hear what 7 decades of living and learning from my mistakes has taught me about the power of kindness, please hit that like button. Share. It helps more people find these channels. Subscribe and ring the notification bell, because we're building a family here of people who believe wisdom is meant to be spread, not hoarded. Stick with me, young ones. Your LOLO Adam has some stories that might just change how you see the world. Let me tell you about the day I learned my first real lesson about kindness. I was 32, working in a small accounting firm, desperate to make partner. There was an older janitor named Miguel who cleaned our offices every evening. For 2 years, I walked past Miguel every night, never said hello, never acknowledged him. In my arrogance, I thought he was beneath me, just the cleaning man. One evening, I was working late, stressed about a difficult client, when I heard Miguel humming hymns as he worked. Something about his joy in that simple moment stopped me. I finally spoke to him. "Miguel, you seem happy." He looked surprised that I'd even noticed him. Then he smiled. That smile, and said, "Senor Adam, God gives me work, health, and a family to serve. How can I not be happy?" That night, Miguel shared his story. He supported 5 grandchildren after their parents died. He worked 3 jobs but never complained. He prayed for everyone in our building by name, including me, though I'd never shown him kindness. Wisdom family, Proverbs 27:14 warns us, "A loud and boisterous greeting in the morning will be counted as a curse." But I'd given Miguel something worse: silence, invisibility, the cruelest form of unkindness. From that night forward, I made it my business to know Miguel, to see him, to learn from him. And you know what happened? That simple shift, choosing to acknowledge someone I'd ignored, changed everything about who I was becoming. In my 78 years, I've discovered that kindness isn't just about being nice. The book of Proverbs reveals it as wisdom in action, understanding that how we treat others shapes who we become. Today, I want to share 3 profound truths about kindness that took me a lifetime to learn, illustrated through stories from my journey from a selfish young man to, hopefully a wiser old one. In all my years studying book of Proverbs from the Bible, and I've read it through dozens of times, 3 truths about kindness stand out like jewels. Proverbs 31:26 describes the virtuous woman. She opens her mouth with wisdom, and on her tongue is the law of kindness. Notice, kindness is called a law, not a suggestion. It requires discipline, strength, character. When I was 40, I supervised a team of young accountants. One was struggling terribly, making errors, missing deadlines. My first instinct was to fire him publicly, make an example. But I remembered Miguel's patience with my years of rudeness. Instead, I called this young man into my office privately. "Tell me what's happening in your life," I said. His wife had cancer. He wasn't sleeping. Medical bills were crushing them. He was terrified, but too proud to ask for help. I could have shown strength by firing him. Instead, I chose real strength. I adjusted his workload, connected him with our company's assistance program, and stood by him. That young man, David, became one of our finest accountants. Years later, he told me, "Your kindness saved my marriage and my career. I learned more about leadership from your compassion than any business book." Proverbs 16:32 confirms this. He who is slow to anger is better than the mighty, and he who rules his spirit than he who takes a city. Listen to Proverbs 11:25. The generous soul will be made rich, and he who waters will also be watered himself. This isn't prosperity gospel nonsense. It's practical wisdom about how kindness creates abundance in relationships, opportunities, and joy. In my 50s, I started a small tradition. Every month, I'd take a colleague to lunch, not for business, just to listen to their story. People thought I was wasting time, but here's what happened. These lunches created a network of genuine relationships. When I later started my own consulting business, these same people became my first clients, my referral sources, my advocates. But the real abundance wasn't financial. It was the richness of knowing people deeply, their struggles, dreams, victories. At my age now, my greatest wealth isn't my savings account. It's the hundreds of lives I've been privileged to touch through simple kindness. Proverbs 19:17 promises, "He who has pity on the poor lends to the Lord, and he will pay back what he has given." God keeps careful books, my wisdom family. Proverbs 10:7 tells us, "The memory of the righteous is blessed, but the name of the wicked will rot." At my age, I think often about legacy. Not what I've accumulated, but what I've contributed. 5 years ago, I attended the funeral of my old boss, a man who'd been cruel, manipulative, focused only on profit. The church was nearly empty. His own children spoke briefly, without warmth. Last year, Miguel, remember my janitor friend, passed away at 89. The church overflowed. Person after person shared how Miguel's kindness had changed their lives. His grandson said, "Grandfather taught us that how you treat the least important person reveals who you really are." Young people, listen to this old man. Your kindness today is writing the story people will tell about you tomorrow. Every small gesture, every moment of patience, every act of generosity, they're not just changing others' lives. They're crafting your legacy. Now, let me show you these truths in action through 3 stories from my journey. Moments that taught me kindness isn't just nice behavior, but the very foundation of a meaningful life. This story takes us back to 1985. I was 38, managing a small bank branch. Mrs. Rodriguez came in every Friday to deposit her husband's paycheck, and every Friday she was angry about something. Long lines, paperwork, fees. My tellers dreaded her visits. "Here comes trouble," they'd whisper. Most managers would have asked her to take her business elsewhere. But Proverbs 15:1 kept echoing in my mind. A soft answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. I decided to test these wisdom. One Friday, instead of hiding in my office, I approached Mrs. Rodriguez. "Ma'am, you seem frustrated. How can we serve you better?" She was shocked. No one had ever asked. Then the floodgates opened. Her husband worked construction, dangerous, unpredictable income. She was terrified they'd lose their house. Every Friday, depositing that paycheck was a reminder of how precarious their situation was. Her anger wasn't about the bank. It was about fear. I spent an hour with Mrs. Rodriguez that day. We set up a small emergency savings account, discussed budgeting, connected her with free financial counseling. But most importantly, I listened. From that day forward, Mrs. Rodriguez became our bank's biggest advocate. She brought her entire extended family to us. When I left to start my consulting business, she was one of my first references. But here's the deeper truth. Helping Mrs. Rodriguez changed me more than it changed her. Proverbs 14:21 says, "He who despises his neighbor sins, but he who has mercy on the poor, happy is he." I learned that angry people are usually afraid people. Difficult customers are often desperate customers. Kindness doesn't just solve their problems, it reveals our own character. That angry customer in your life? Try curiosity instead of irritation. You might discover their story changes everything. This next story is harder to tell because it reveals my own failures before God's grace taught me better. In 1992, I hired a young woman named Patricia as a secretary. She was smart, eager, but made constant mistakes. Other managers said, "Fire her, she's not working out." For weeks, I was impatient, critical. I'd sigh when she brought me incorrect reports, roll my eyes when she misfiled documents. I wasn't cruel, but I wasn't kind either. One evening, I stayed late and heard Patricia crying in the supply room. When I found her, she was preparing her resignation letter. "Mr. Adam," she said, "I know I'm not good enough for this job. You don't have to fire me. I'll save you the trouble." Wisdom family, Proverbs 12:18 convicted me that night. There is one who speaks like the piercings of a sword, but the tongue of the wise promotes health. My impatience had been like sword wounds to this young woman's confidence. I asked Patricia to sit down. "Tell me what's really happening." Through tears, she shared that she was a single mother working 2 jobs, studying for her business degree at night. She hadn't slept more than 4 hours in months. This wasn't incompetence, it was exhaustion. This wasn't stupidity. It was a woman trying to build a better life for her child while everything was stacked against her. I tore up her resignation letter. Instead, I adjusted her schedule to match her class times, arranged for training, and most importantly, started encouraging instead of criticizing. Patricia became our finest employee within 6 months. She earned her degree, got promoted, and eventually started her own successful business. At my 70th birthday party, she stood up and said, "LOLO Adam saw potential in me when I couldn't see it in myself, but here's what changed me." Proverbs 27:17 says, "Iron sharpens iron, and a man sharpens the countenance of his friend." Patricia's struggle sharpened my character. Her determination inspired me to be better. Young managers, young leaders, that struggling employee isn't your burden. They're your opportunity to practice the kindness that builds character in both of you. My last story brings us to more recent years. At 72, my wife and I moved to a quiet neighborhood for retirement. Next door lived Mr. Chen, a widower who seemed to hate the world. Mr. Chen complained about everything. Our dog barking, she barely whimpered. Our grandchildren playing, normal kid noise. Our garden, apparently our roses were too bright. The homeowners association was tired of his complaints. I'll confess, my first reaction was irritation. Here I am, trying to enjoy my golden years, and I have this bitter neighbor making life difficult. But my wife, God bless her, reminded me of Proverbs 25:21. "If your enemy is hungry, give him bread to eat, and if he is thirsty, give him water to drink." Every morning, I started waving to Mr. Chen when he retrieved his newspaper. He ignored me for weeks. I kept waving. I began leaving small gifts, tomatoes from our garden, cookies my wife baked. He never acknowledged them, but they disappeared. 3 months into this one-sided friendship, I found Mr. Chen sitting on his porch crying. His son had called to tell him he wouldn't be visiting him again. "Mr. Chen," I said gently, "would you like to talk?" And finally, the wall crumbled. This man who seemed angry at the world was actually drowning in loneliness. His wife of 40 years had passed. His children lived far away and rarely called. He complained about noise because silence reminded him how alone he was. Mr. Chen joined us for dinner that night, then the next week. Soon he became like family. When he passed last year at 86, he left a note. "LOLO Adam showed me that kindness costs nothing but is worth everything." Proverbs 25 teaches us, "Counsel in the heart of man is like deep water, but a man of understanding will draw it out." Mr. Chen's difficult behavior was covering deep pain. Kindness gave me the patience to draw out his real story. My wisdom family, difficult people are often just people having difficulty. Behind every gruff exterior is someone who needs exactly what you have to offer. The simple recognition that they matter. After 7 decades of learning about kindness, sometimes the hard way, I want to leave you with practical wisdom you can use immediately. I call it the grace method, drawn from both scripture and experience. G. Give attention first. Proverbs 18:13 warns, "He who answers a matter before he hears it, it is folly and shame to him. Before trying to fix or judge someone, truly see them. Listen to their story." Most people aren't looking for solutions. They're looking for someone who cares enough to understand. R. Respond with patience. Proverbs 14:29 tells us, "He who is slow to wrath has great understanding, but he who is impulsive exalts folly." Count to 10. Ask yourself, what might this person be struggling with that I can't see? Pain often wears the mask of anger. A. Act with generosity. Proverbs 3:27 instructs, "Do not withhold good from those to whom it is due, when it is in the power of your hand to do it." Small acts compound over time. The extra coffee, the patient explanation, the encouraging word, these create transformation. C. Continue consistently. Proverbs 27:14 reminds us that sporadic kindness can feel insincere. Real kindness is steady, reliable, present even when it's difficult. People trust consistency more than grand gestures. E. Expect nothing in return. This is the hardest part. Proverbs 19:17 promises, God notices our kindness to others. Trust Him with the results. Your job is to plant seeds of kindness. God handles the harvest. I want to challenge you. For the next day, choose one person in your life, maybe someone difficult, overlooked, or struggling. Practice grace with them. I promise you'll discover what I learned. Kindness changes the giver more than the receiver. My dear friends, I'm 78 years old. I've made more mistakes than most of you have years. But if this old man's life has taught me anything, it's this. Kindness is never wasted. Every harsh word I spoke, every person I ignored, every opportunity for kindness I missed, I remember them all. They're my regrets. But every act of kindness, every moment of patience, every time I chose love over judgment, these are my treasures. We live in angry times, don't we? People are quick to criticize, slow to understand. But you can be different. You can be the person who sees beyond the surface, who offers grace instead of judgment. If these old stories touch your heart, please hit that like button and share this message. Subscribe and ring the notification bell. I have more stories to tell, more wisdom to share. Most importantly, go practice what we've discussed. Find someone who needs kindness today and give it generously. Remember Proverbs 11:30. The fruit of the righteous is a tree of life, and he who wins souls is wise. Until next time, may your kindness be the light that guides others home. This is LOLO Adam, reminding you that it's never too late to start being the person God created you to be. We all have moments where kindness left a lasting mark on our hearts. What's yours? Write it in the comments, and let's build a chain of inspiration together.